To the House.
The question is that the motion be agreed to.
Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Damien O'Connor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And I was very pleased to hear the Minister commit once again to the biosecurity system and the importance of it for our economy. And indeed, I've just come from a young farmers gathering with the Minister in Wellington here, a great event hosted by young farmers, where the Chief Executive of MPI said that biosecurity, as he said before, is the single most important consideration and the single biggest threat to primary industries in this country. And I absolutely agree. Mr. Speaker, can I quote something? I told you so. It had to happen, and it did. On the May the 8th, the export of produce from New Zealand worth $2.5 billion per year was put in doubt when one male Queensland fruit fly was found in a pheromone trap in Avondale. Mr. Speaker, these are not my words, but these are from Andrew Fenton, President of Horticulture New Zealand. He says it was only a matter of time, not a matter of if. Hort New Zealand has been going on about this for years. Cost cutting kicked in with restructuring for greater efficiency and effectiveness, and, quote, we lost 100% X-ray of baggage entering our borders. The number of frontline staff and detector dogs has been reduced in favour of passenger profiling. Mr. Speaker, we think biosecurity is the single biggest threat to this country, to our whole economy. And we supported most of the provisions in this bill. In fact, we initiated them.
Labour policy.
But we were concerned that the government, in pushing ahead with this bill, at the same time cut funding to frontline biosecurity in its first budget and has now slashed frontline staff and staff at Biosecurity New Zealand by about 90 staff. And the Minister just got up in the House and said, we think it is the most important thing for primary production. Well, if one fruit fly can put $2.5 billion worth of exports at risk, think of what one bit of dirt with foot and mouth on it, on the shoes or the soles of any used or unused footwear coming into this country. Think of what that would cost this economy. It is in the billions and billions of dollars, Mr. Speaker. We have agreed to support this bill because it does bring in some new provisions that allow better information sharing across government agencies, Mr. Speaker. It, however, also puts in place basically a system of self-regulation. And the National Party has been known for self-regulation. In fact, they did it in the mining industry, they did it in the building industry, they did it in electricity. In fact, everywhere they've done it, there's been a disaster. They're doing it also in the area of the meat industry, where companies will now self-regulate on meat inspection. Mr. Speaker, there are real dangers when industries under pressure cut corners, and the component of self-regulation here, where in the Minister's words, exporters have to share the responsibility, places the whole economy of our country in the hands of what might be some desperate importers with their backs to the wall, trying to make a buck to survive. Well, that's simply not good enough. We need a robust, secure frontline system, analysing risk offshore, analysing risk as the people and all the imported goods come to this country, and having robust, very secure frontline checking systems in place. Never mind what might happen should an outbreak occur. Mr. Speaker, that's another component of the bill. GIAs, government industry agreements. Industries have been very concerned because, in fact, the Ministry of Agriculture and Forestry, as it was, and then Fishing, and now it's MPI, were dictating to industries what they were likely to incur by way of costs should an incursion, like the Queensland fruit fly, or the painted apple moth, or Varroa, or the number of experiences that we have unfortunately had to face. And heaven forbid, Mr. Speaker, if we were ever to face a foot and mouth outbreak. But the costs now will be shared by by industry and by government. And some may say, well, that's fine because they're the beneficiaries. The problem is that when importers bring products into the country or people travel, they actually are the ones providing the risk. They are the ones, they are the exacerbators, they are the ones who are threatening the industries here. And without the industry's ability to have some say on how that is managed, they thought that very unfair. Now, the Minister has introduced a supplementary order paper that does go some way to addressing industry concerns. That is, that it commits to consultation around how incursions would be managed here, but also some discussion into how frontline biosecurity systems are run. So with that supplementary order paper on balance, the Labor Party is prepared to support the bill on the basis of improvements made around technology, upgrading the systems of information gathering and sharing, Mr. Speaker. But we do not support this bill and on the basis that we are endorsing the current biosecurity systems in this country, Mr. Speaker. This is one component. It's a modernisation, as the Minister said in some ways. But I received today, Mr. Speaker, New Zealand Grower, a magazine where the officials and the government are determined to impose on the growers of capsicums, cucumbers, zucchinis and tomatoes a new import health standard. What that means, Mr. Speaker, is anyone wanting to import, in spite of our ability to grow all those things, supermarkets and others want to import those products into this country, and the government wants to dumb down the import health standards for the importation of those things. The growers think that places us at greater risk of a biosecurity incursion, Mr. Speaker. The new import health standards allow, Mr. Smith probably doesn't know this, allow a certain number of fruit fly eggs and larvae to enter New Zealand, because that's an acceptable level of risk under the proposed import health standards. That is not good enough. That is an outrageous dumbing down of the biosecurity protection of this country to all the growers in that horticultural area. The growers have an opportunity to submit, but I hope the Minister's listening. He hasn't been listening on many things. I hope he listens to them, because in no way are we supporting the government in the dumbing down of import health standards. As I said, for these horticultural products, there's currently a legal battle in the courts because pork producers in this country have had to go to court to uphold and protect their industry, to uphold the standards that will keep out PRRS, porcine reproductive and respiratory syndrome. Basically the AIDS in the pork industry, Mr. Speaker. We don't have it, Australia doesn't have it, virtually every other country in the world has it, and this government wants to dumb down the import health standards to allow the importation of pork that places far greater risk of the transfer of PRRS from Canada or any other European country or anywhere else in the world, effectively, because they've got it, into our country. Why would we do that? It is dumb, it is cost-cutting, and it is ideology by the government over there that says, let the market forces determine where we should lie. Well, the facts are, and the members over there shaking their heads, read this. That is saying the import health standards for capsicums and tomatoes is proposed to be dumbed down. We know it is in the area of pork. We're concerned about importing honey. And we know that the government cut frontline biosecurity border protection services. Fact. No debate. That's a fact. And the government, and the next speaker might go, oh, we have good systems and we have all these things in place. The fact is, we got a Queensland fruit fly. Through the border, through the systems. We picked it up, thankfully. I'm acknowledging that the systems here can pick that up, hopefully every time. But I guess that the more border breaches that occur, the less likely we are to pick up each and every one of them. So in supporting this bill that allows the modernisation of parts of the biosecurity system, in no way does Labor support the dumbing down of biosecurity across the board in this country. The one single thing that keeps the Director General awake at night, he said, the single biggest threat to this economy, because we still rely on biological production, we still rely on primary production, and this government has not been prepared to put the resources in to ensure the level of risk is appropriate, and that is very, very low.
Order.
Because their future depends upon that.
Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Nick Smith.
Mr. Speaker, this biosecurity law reform bill